What is numerology and how'd you get into numerology?
Numerology is basically the study of energy behind what all the numbers represent. The way I got into numerology was 9/11.
What?
9/11 is the event that got me in there. And when that day happened, I was brainwashed like all the other sheep, and I'm like, oh, Osama bin Laden did this. But after I started looking at a few things, the numbers just didn't make sense. Like for instance, the first plane to hit the World Trade Center was Flight 11. It happened on the 11th. And then you start going deeper, like New York City, 11 letters. New York, the 11th state. The Twin Towers look like an 11 side by side. They both had 110 stories. So at this point, you start saying, when is enough enough? When is this not a coincidence anymore? And what I remembered, because I was always a history buff, I loved history. And I remember that World War I ended at exactly 11/11 at 11 o'clock. So they made sure they ended it at exactly that time, not 10:55, not 11:05, but 11:11 at exactly 11 o'clock. At that point, I knew there was something behind this. I knew that the people in positions of power were using this for something, and I just didn't know what it was at the time. Well, now it's 2019, 18 years later. I'm well aware of what these guys are doing now.
So it's very interesting because, like, someone that isn't like a fifth degree black belt in conspiracies like myself, Johnny's kind of got a green belt right now. We're kind of bringing him through it. But when Johnny hears these numbers, I could already see in his eyes he's a little skeptical, right, Johnny?
I'm skeptical of everything until I've seen proof. So, yeah, sure.
And I'm the same way, but let me throw some things at you. Al Qaeda, the group they blamed for 9/11, was founded August 11th. They had three major attacks in the world: one in America on 9/11, one in Madrid, Spain on March 11th, and the other one in Mumbai, India on the 11th. So, again, the major terrorist organization of our time, Al Qaeda, performs the three biggest terrorist attacks on the 11th, and they're founded on the 11th. What point does this stop being a coincidence?
See, when I hear
Because
this, yeah, dude, I hear this stuff. It just makes me think more and more that this is just like Matrix shit, and those numbers coming down is just data.
That's my question. Are you suggesting more that these are all coordinated by people, or that this is evidence of some kind of simulation that has numerology built into it?
Number one, this is a virtual reality. There's no doubt about that. That there's 100%, not 99, but 100. But I am telling you that there are people in positions of power in the world that make sure certain things happen on certain dates. For instance, when you look at big events, they usually drop them on the 11th. What was that racist rally that happened in a couple years ago in North Carolina? What was that called?
Charlottesville in Virginia, you mean?
Yeah, where they were marching with the hoods,
Charlottesville.
and
that was Charlottesville
okay,
in Virginia. Yeah.
okay. So that event happened on the 11th. They made sure to stage that event on the 11th because the 11th is all about emotional energy. So they want people to get very emotional under certain days.
What is, now, hold on real quick. You've mentioned this emotional energy. What is that? What is emotional energy?
It's basically some people are more emotional than others. And some days, because of the vibrational energy, affects people in a way where they're more emotional than they would usually be. Like, for instance, a big alpha male guy, for some reason, starts crying. He doesn't even know why. Maybe it happened because of a certain day. So my point is, on 11 days, and that's, for instance, anything that adds up to an 11 or the 11th or the 29th, because 2 and 9 is 11, you can expect the people in positions of power to do certain things because they want an emotional reaction from people. I'm sure you guys are conspiracy theories, so you understand how they do things. First, they cause the problem, then they offer the solution. So what they do is they make sure to get people emotionally tangled in a problem on a certain day so they can come back and offer the solution they want. It's all based on numerology and astrology. Now, let me give you an example of how astrology and numerology are way above science.
Okay. Now, I'm dying to hear all this.
I love science. I think science is extremely important, but astrology and numerology, in some cases, have been 500 years ahead of this stuff. The one example I would give you is astrologers for centuries said whenever it was a full moon, people acted crazy. Whenever it's a full moon, that's where you got the lunatic, because people act crazy in the full moons. Even police will tell you this. They get crazy phone calls under full moons. Well, the reason this is because 70% of the human body is water, liquid.
Yes.
So what happens is when you have a full moon, it pulls on the tides. So logic would tell you that it would pull under humans in a way as well. That's why humans react, and I'm not saying all of them, but a certain percentage of them act very crazy around full moons. Because just like the moon is pulling on the tides, it's pulling on our liquid energy within us. So that shows you that the astrologers knew this 500-600 years ago. The science only caught up to this, I don't know, what 50, 100 years ago. So again, it shows you just one example of how the astrologers and numerologists were centuries ahead of science in some ways.
There are so many numbers, right?
You used to be able to use that in the court of law. Back in the day, it was a full moon type of shit. Like, and that's where the werewolf came from. You used to act crazy, and it used, like he says, we're made out of water. You know how it moves the tide. It's supposed to do that too.
So that was somebody's legal defense.
Yeah,
I went crazy because of a full moon, and be like, not guilty.
Yeah, I just found it right here. It's called the full moon defense.
God, I need to use that.
Back in the day, yeah, try that.
I need to use that a lot.
Like for instance, the movie The Matrix. You know, they pointed out, are you looking at me, Neil, or are you looking at the lady in red? And then I started understanding how they use certain colors, because those are based off chakra energy. The root chakra, if in someone's body, is based off sexual energy, and that's represented by the color red. So what these people in the movie industry always try to do is they try to put the sexiest woman in a red dress to make people, think about sex that much more. So colors, shapes, even sounds. That has a lot to do with the cult. I just call it the Matrix. And to me, the Matrix is a virtual reality which feeds off people's emotions. You know, when you sleep, every insect, every animal, every person on the planet sleeps. And this is where I'm going to lose some people. And I understand that because a lot of people are going to be like, okay, the numerology and astrology is cool, Gary. But when I start talking about stuff like this, I'm going to start losing a few people. And that's fine because it's still the truth. The fact of the matter is when we sleep, the Matrix feeds on our emotional energy. It basically feeds on us. During the day, we're like bees. We collect pollen. And when we go to sleep, the Matrix feeds on us. So this virtual reality causes us to be in conflicts, causing us to have problems with our girlfriends, our wives, our kids. Something's wrong with the car. So we get all emotional. We get stressed out. And when we carry that emotion and we go to sleep, the Matrix feeds off that emotion. So I hope that wasn't too deep for you guys.
No.
Shit,
so what? So how do we don't want the Matrix feeding off our negative energy, right? Like, is that the goal?
I mean, listen, the Matrix is like a deity. It's a freaking god. It might be the god and devil all in the one together. So the Matrix communicates through numbers, through colors, through shapes. The thing is, it always leaves you clues. You just have to know how to read the numbers. And that's why, people see repetitive numbers all the time. I'm sure all of you guys have seen 1111 on the clock all the time. People ask me all the time, what does that mean? It basically is a subconscious way of the Matrix talking to your mind. It also means you're woke. Most people who are woke to some degree always see 1111 all the time. Again, if you don't see it all the time, then you probably got some spirituality stuff to work on.
That's what that whole Make-A-Wish thing. Everyone it's 11/11, make a wish.
Garbage. See, that's more false information. And this is the crap these women numerologists put out there. Love everybody, feel good. As long as you love everybody, everything's going to be good. Just crap like that.
That's all garbage? The energy you put out is the energy you get back? It's all garbage?
No, the law of attraction works. The law of attraction works. I do not deny the law of attraction. But there's something that supersedes the law of attraction called the law of opposites. I'll give you an example. Why would the elites, who are hideous people who always do something with a negative intent, why would they release a secret like manifestation? Why would they release that unless there is a trap door? So here's what I'm basically trying to say. yes, if you manifest good things, they can happen. And a lot of people have manifested a lot of stuff, including myself. Yet, there's a reason the Bible says saints create sinners. Because for every person who creates a good thought, the matrix will balance it out with a negative thought. So while someone is manifesting riches for themselves, the matrix will make sure someone else is poor, because everything has to be balanced in the matrix. Yin versus yang. I'll give you an example of how the law of opposites supersedes the law of attraction. Let's say you saw someone falling right now, and you know they didn't injure yourself, but they fall. You start laughing and bust out laughing. Everyone has done it. You see someone fall, see someone break something, they start busting out laughing. Why does misery in that person cause joy in you?
Law of opposites.
There you go. And the law of opposites supersedes the law of attraction. So now you understand why the elite actually release something like the law of attraction, because the law of opposites supersedes. Let's talk about the Titanic.
Yeah, let's hear this.
The Titanic was actually a hit job. What happened was they wanted to start the Federal Reserve in 1911, but there was a very powerful man in America called Mr. Usher. I might be butchering his name, but he owned half the politicians. And, you know, he was against it because he was basically running 40% of the banks as it is himself. So what happened was, when people are so powerful, when mobsters are so powerful, you can't just kill them because that will start a war. You have to make it seem like an accident. So what happened is, when the Titanic got, launched, all the richest families in the world went on it. But yet at the very last minute, the PJ Morgans of the world all of a sudden canceled because they knew it was a hit job. The Titanic was supposed to go down. So after the Titanic goes down, all of a sudden Mr. Usher is dead, and all the politicians he's bribing, all that money dries up. So obviously, like the roaches they are, they switch to the other side very quickly. So the Federal Reserve gets founded in Jekyll Island in 1913. And after the Federal Reserve gets founded, then they have enough money to fund World War I, which started in 1914. So again, you have a step-by-step basis. First, the Titanic gets sunk. Then you have the Federal Reserve. Then you have World War I. And again, World War I leads to World War II. And you get the whole spiel.
Wow. I fucking love this shit. I could listen to this all day. Now, you could go back through time. You could look at these numbers. Do you have stuff that tells you what's going to happen in the future? Obviously, XG brought up sports. This can help you predict sports, or maybe not necessarily predict it, but give you an inclination into what might possibly happen, or good odds that will happen. Any thoughts on that?
If you know how to apply numerology and astrology correctly, you can figure out what is the most likely outcome. Now, I'm not psychic. I never claimed to be, even though I could probably fool a lot of people and tell them I am. That's not the game I play. Most psychics are frauds, and I will not be referred to as a fraud. So when it comes down to it, if you know how to read numerology and astrology correctly, yes, you can predict the outcome of things to a degree. Like, for instance, I said Donald Trump would win the election. I went on national radio on Michael Savage's show and said he would win the election. If I'm wrong, my career is over. But I knew he'd win. So, you got to take chances in life when you believe you know what you're doing. And all you got to do is look at all the parlays I hit the past 4 days, over $250,000 worth. And I posted all on Twitter. People don't do stuff like that. That's because of numerology and astrology. I'm able to do stuff like that.
Have you?
If I didn't have numerology and astrology, I'd be another loser gambling like everyone else.